everyone for still being here. It's one of our marks of success for events like this is if we still have anybody in the room when it gets to the end of the last break. So thank you for all being here, for coming back, and for your contributions today. So if you could take your seats, we'll start back again. We're on the final stretch of today, and I'll give you your instructions in just a second. Once we get everybody back in the room and seated. Okay, we're not all seated, but we'll start back anyway. So we've been gathering in your work from the afternoon session as we've gone. We've been picking out the potential actions from your last worksheet and added them onto the board there. What we want to do now is to give you just one last chance to get your thoughts into the room. We'll give you 5-10 minutes at your table, probably 10 minutes, and at 25 to 5 on my watch, so it's 9 minutes time. We'll go around the room, give each table a maximum of 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be 5 minutes, just to give their thoughts on the discussions this afternoon and leading into action. So it's asking that key question, what will we do next as an industry? So that's the question you're answering. But I wanted to give you just that 5-10 minutes at your tables just to come up with a commonly held statement or view on what it is that we need to do next. Okay, that clear? Draw on anything that you've heard today, any of the speakers from the morning, anything that was on the board, any insights that you had in the afternoon discussions. Okay, so at 25 I'll bring you back together and we'll go around the room in a random order until we've heard from all 8 tables. Okay, thank you. So what we're going to do now, as I said, is we're going to hear from each table. We now have only 6 tables instead of 8, so that was good. That will keep us moving faster. Graham's going to keep track of your summaries and your report backs as we go on, so we can include these with the notes. Which of the tables wants to speak first? What was your takeaway from this? What will we do next as individual representatives of the industry? So what can be done? What will you do next after this event?
So we started out by thinking about booking accommodation for the next COP so that we can all come back and Sharm el Sheikh. But outside of that, I think there was a speed of analysis and a speed of understanding of what this, almost as though one sensed that there is an awful lot of change happening, but we need to really, to make the decisions quickly, we need to really start to look quickly at what those changes might be, because we're talking about the phasing out of any transportation of coal. We're talking about ultimately the phasing out of transportation of oil or gas, or what does that mean, or what are the other options that we need to be looking at, and how we look at even the recycling of shipping, and how do we accelerate that, and how does that play in the bigger picture. I think that was it, wasn't it?
You had some competition from the table over there at that point, who had a lot to say, so we're going to go to them next. So who wants the microphone? Who's going to give it?
He can sing. You're going to sing for us afterwards? No. Okay.
Ali could do that.
So, we've got some ideas over here. Implementation plan with easy milestones. So manageable milestones, right? Yes. Yep. Mandatory hull cleaning, which would be policed by ports. Yes. We've got some challenges to that, which is about policy, and it can take too long, but it's good. We could get through those. We think carbon tax, absolutely critical. That has to be a policy. And you may not be surprised to know that we think that wind ought to be mandatory.
Okay, thank you very much. Which of the tables wants to go next? So the one next to Kath there, get the microphone.
Hi, good afternoon. I found today quite fascinating. I'm relatively new to the commercial shipping. But what I want to take away from this, and I think the table has agreed, that I don't think we're ever going to reach the destination. The destination is going to always be evolving and going further and further ahead. The one thing that I potentially would like to look at is what do we do with the existing vessels today? If we have a vessel coming into a dry dock, our dry dock as an example, what can I do and offer to that client, skipper, technical team, whatever, to make an improvement? It seems wrong just to go, we'll just do the same. So I think it's about us educating the shipping companies, the shipping owners, and all those aspects. So I'm kind of looking at it from a different angle. What can we do today? And there is things out there today that we can make existing vessels more efficient. And I think there's one last thing. The Clydebank intervention, I'd like to understand more about that as well. So yeah, thanks very much. I've enjoyed my day. So over to the next person.
Thanks very much.
Okay, fantastic. Come to this table next.
Yeah, so just building on what you just said there, I think it's really important. We all agreed that the focus on the next 8 years is the most important, and it's what we can do now, and maybe like less focus on that destination, but it's like more about the journey, that old cliche. And then looking around the table, we were all quite different spaces, but we talked about pushing companies and insurers, shipping companies and insurers, you know, that bit further, like to be that bit more ambitious, you know, to get out of their comfort zone, to do everything that we can right now to reduce emissions. So if you're looking at a national context, like what can you do with short sea shipping, you know, electrify, you know, wind, even if those small wins, like even if you think they're small, like they add up to a big change and they enable you to scale and test technology and learn from it. So don't just try and focus on the big wins and the giant, I don't know, ammonia bulk carriers, but focus on like lots of trials of a smaller scale as well. And building on that inclusivity, so including like a wider range of people in that transition. So, you know, seafarers and coastal communities in the conversation of what does the future look like for them, and, you know, with shipping and the ships that are coming into their ports. And then finally, everybody, like, to leave this room thinking about what can we all do to look at like what we're consuming, or you know, in our communities as well. So that's ours, is finding like a strong story and sticking to this idea of what can we do now.
That's perfect. If I can gather your notes there, because they'll be helpful for us when we wrote there. There's quite a few ideas. Any of the other groups that wrote down any of what they were going to say, you can leave them on the tables as well. We'll you know, make sure those appear in the report. This table next.
Thank you. So we talk about strong regulation, especially for European Union, and we also talk about new technologies will driven with the data. So ships and all the supply chain data need to be analyzed in a better way, and big data management will play key to understand the data in a best, effective and fast way. And the other stuff we talk about, consumption from the consumer side at the end user. We need to basically create an awareness what is the really impact for them. And also from the previous side we discussed and mentioned that we need, for big companies, needs to get on board faster, because the government has a budget, but let's say the Amazon has 10 times, like 10 times can buy to Turkey as an economy. So, and government doing something, but let's say Amazon says they're gonna do something in 2014, but it's too late. I mean, they need to be faster. This should be the next as well. Thank you.
I'm interested, and it has been mentioned at some of the tables throughout the day, but the big commercial players, Amazons of this world and others, they've not shown up in this conversation as much as some might have expected us to. There's a couple of post-it notes this morning about consumers buying less, but it hasn't figured as much in the conversation. Has that surprised others, or was it just me?
I don't know if people saw in the news, but I read this article about Maersk and how they're like developing an e-commerce platform that's basically they're looking to control the entire supply chain. And I literally just saw it like after having been in the blue zone yesterday, and that just made me think like there are just like major moves for these big brands to just further consolidate their power under the banner of climate action. And maybe that is the way to go, because then they can see all across like where the emissions are and how they can be super efficient. But maybe it's also completely the wrong direction as well, because they have all that information. It's like data that's held up. It's not publicly available, and it's further distancing people from the impact of their purchasing decisions. So it could take us, like, it could go either way in like very different directions. So I just thought that's like really interesting. Like, we've got all these big like grand ambitions, but like what's actually happening like in those companies, like buying freight forwarders and tying up the entire supply chain. I think that's really interesting, and we haven't talked about that at all.
So maybe one for a follow-up discussion. Good.
Just maybe on that, I think one thing as well that, I mean, obviously shipping becomes quite siloed quite easily, so we talk about climate action, then we don't talk about recycling, or kind of we don't talk about, I think there was a comment earlier about how we just talk about shipping companies, but not about the operators and ports and things like this. And the competition and tax angle, I think, is also interesting, because we'll have this minimum tax, which only one sector so this minimum tax of 15%, and only one sector is exempted from that, and that's the shipping sector, which is slightly gobsmacking. I don't know. So I think this may be a kind of more systems approach to think about, okay, let's make this fair for everyone, and make everyone pay their fair share as well might be useful.
I go for it. All right, so what do we have? All right, so we have Create Low, GSG, Emission Supply Clubs. And maybe more important, we should start actually by changing our own behaviors as individual and also as a company. Something we discussed was maybe we need actually to commit. So after this meeting, it's really about making a real commitment for your company and stick to it, give you a deadline, and then measure. And then you achieve or you don't achieve, but at least you know where you are going. You are on track or you are not on track. So that was one suggestion. Hold employees accountable, so that goes actually in the same direction. Today you manage the company and you need to engage all your employees also in this journey. And climate strike, maybe we went extreme, but maybe actually that's the way we all become like the Greta of the shipping. Get real and also be honest. So that goes back again about measuring, be very clear about your ambition. That's it.
Thank you very much. Any reactions to any of what we heard from the table that hasn't come up already? So I think we leave almost the final words with Nick as host. What have you taken from today, Nick?
Well, it feels like a long time since my opening comments, and I think back to standing recently in front of one of our committees, which was 50 men, all engineers, and thinking how different the conversation would be if maybe we had a room more like this. I think someone on a table over there described their conversation as a bit like smash the system, and I sense, there's a willingness to really change now that is, if not quite smash the system, it's really challenge so much of our thinking. And I feel guilty myself, having stood in a big shipyard in China 10 years ago and wondered when the retrofitting would start. It's taking a long time really to get to this stage where maybe we will get wind-powered ships sailing the seas. And I think that would be really exciting to see that. I do remember standing on the deck of a cargo ship going across the Indian Ocean when I was 21, and I think it was a K-Line bulk carrier came by with a big metal sail on the forecastle, and everyone on the bridge went, what's that? And that had been, an early start to try and address what were then high fuel costs, I think, in the mid-80s or so. It was a short-lived experiment, but ships and shipping, have always been a market where innovation has been important. Mankind has always wanted to go to the other shore. But we're now paying the cost of the external costs of that need to move things around. I'm sure the system will change. Thank you very much for being, a part of the thinking about how we're going to move forward now. As I said, COP is, completely new to me, and I think new to many in shipping. I'd like to thank IFF for guiding us through this. I think it's been a fantastic process, and an event where we will come out, a bit like Maddie's, you're going to produce a report as well. Likewise, I think we'll be ready to circulate something towards the end of next week, maybe, Graham. So I hope you find that useful. We're going to share that, and then work out what to do next, and see where we can all make a difference. I've really enjoyed this. It's great to see so many of you here. I think we weren't sure what we were going to get. It was organised at quite short notice, but with a simple concept, which I think people have cottoned onto. I've really enjoyed seeing you all. So thank you very much for coming. Yeah, and of course, this Malin Spotlight series comes with a platform that will basically have all the assets on it. So that hopefully, I haven't really looked into exactly how it's going to work. I don't know if Chris has gone back into the rotunda. But watch that space. There should be some resources on there. From a BV point of view, I'd certainly like to thank my colleagues Bill and Paul, UK-based. Bill's sort of based in Glasgow and Paris. Paul is very much based in Aberdeen. So thank you guys for coming, supporting us today, and Alex from my team in Paris. And of course, I'd like to thank them if they were here. The guys from Malin for their ambition in pulling this together. And maybe it's a template for the future. And I did also talk to someone in my team and ask them to start looking at hotel rooms in Sharm el-Sheikh. Because at the moment, we've been staying in Edinburgh and coming through on the train every day. It's been costing quite a lot. So it'd be nice to be, closer to the action. But I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed particularly seeing you all here. So thank you for taking part today. Thank you for coming, and spending your time working on this. And I hope you get something out of it, not just from today in terms of meeting people and thinking through these, these big challenges we're facing. And, we heard in that review just how big some of them are. And that you'll have some material to look at that we can usefully feed into all the other things that are going on, GMF, the ICS work. And I'd particularly like to thank our presenters, those who are still here, for taking part this morning and providing that really useful recap of where we've been in the last few days here in Glasgow and where we might be going as an industry. So thank you very much. And do we have we have one more intervention, don't we? Are you going to manage that?
Thanks, Nick. As Nick said, we'll write up the report, and that'll take about a week, but we have some immediate output from the day. Karen has been listening and composing some poetry as we've been going along. So over to you, Karen. These will be the last words, and then we can go out, and if the bar is open, I'm sure you'll stay for a drink.
So I've promised tears in the room. So I find that it helps poetry to make you cry if you just take a really good breath before you listen to it. So just everybody just like one nice deep breath and just settle into your chairs. And this will be shared with the report afterwards as well. Across the water, I saw you across the water, welcoming the questions and hopes, delivering you from your silence and sorrows. Choose your journey, choose your speed, choose your influence. You are supported by your voice as it reaches out into the future. Stand in your failures, safe in your own ocean of heart and values. The only thing of importance is to know where you are going, amidst the power of who you are with those you meet whilst you voyage through your principles. Embrace again and again how you are advancing, how you are navigating, and how you are expanding into your senses as you transform beyond your stranded potential. Listen to the thoughts that anchor you as you weave your knowings within your core, and remember how to care about the life in which you are key. Sail further into your willingness to be the call that others will follow, to be the call which leaves no one behind, to be the call which slows the very breathing of this world long enough to cross the thresholds of intent and integrity. Give yourself space to recharge whenever your mind is cast adrift. Unlock your barriers, defining what hides beneath the surface. Move into a realization of the complexity of your confusions and the true costs of endurance rather than transcendence, and efficiency rather than humanity. I see you across the water, where the future in which you placed your trust walks unseen in your every word and your every deed.